fellow law nerds. Welcome to a special live reaction episode of Boom Lawyers, a Rewire News Group podcast hosted by the legal journalism team that is pretty jazzed that this SCOTUS term is coming to a close because it has been sweaty, and I'm ready for a I'm Rewire News Group's editor-at-large, Imani Gandhi.
And I am Jess Pieklo, Rewire News Group's executive editor. Rewire News Group is the one and only home for expert repro journalism that inspires you to get behind court reform, folks, because we do not need to live like this. My word. And the Boom Lawyer podcast is part of that mission. So a big thanks to our subscribers and a welcome to our new listeners and viewers and everyone joining us for today's live stream. Holy hell, Imani.
Yeah. Okay. There's a reason why we're both drinking.
I was just going to say, man, this requires a drink. French 75 in a can, by the way.
I mean, it's like they're marketing directly towards me.
Classy bitch to pick up from the last episode.
Very classy bitch.
All right. Today, though, involved no classy bitches. Well, a couple.
No, there were a couple classy bitches.
There were a couple. We'll get to that. Today,
we're already off the rails. How is that possible? It's like 2 minutes.
Today, as all of you probably know, the conservative majority on the Supreme Court declared affirmative action policies unconstitutionally racist. They hurt white feelings. In SFA, I hate this case, SFFA versus Harvard and SFFA versus the University of North Carolina, the plaintiffs had argued that race-conscious admission policies violated the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment and Title VI of the Civil Rights Act. That's the statute that prohibits discrimination on the basis of race for institutions that receive public funds. And wouldn't you know it, the court, led by Chief Justice, just going to call him balls and strikes, John Roberts, agreed.
So the court overruled 40 years of precedent for, again, they did the same thing last term. So I guess they had to like keep up with what they did last year. 40 years of precedent in which 12 justices nominated by 9 different presidents had ruled that schools may consider race as a factor in admissions, not a hey, you're black, you get in, no quotas, right? Nothing that cut and dry, just a factor to be considered alongside a lot of other factors. And this opinion was just Roberts being Roberts. Like we thought we got a little reprieve from Roberts. Hey, racism is over, ain't no sweat, in Allen versus Mulligan when he upheld Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. Well, this is classic Roberts, right? This is Shelby v. Holder era Roberts, where the Constitution is colorblind and the only way to talk about race is to not talk about race. The only way we get past racism is to just ignore it, right? There is no racism because I said so. Right. This opinion, like this Justice Thomas at his bitch assiest. Like the man is such a bitch ass punk. Like maybe that's uncouth of me to say. And you know what?
I don't know. Someone else bought his mama's house, Imani.
I'll take that hit, right? But this is a man who himself benefited from affirmative action. Yeah. He hates apparently how inferior it made him feel. He's written about this in his memoirs about how, he grew up a poor black child. He's like Stephen Martin. He's like Steve Martin in The Jerk, right? I was born a poor black child, except for he actually was black and he actually did grow up in the segregated South, but he somehow seems to think that had no effect on him whatsoever, right? Yeah. And so that's a him problem. Like his feelings of inferiority are a him problem, but he just made it all black people's problem. And I have issue with that. Like I really take issue with that because, I'm a black woman. I got into Yale Law. I went to University of Virginia. It was top 7 at the time. I have had my credentials questioned. I've had my intelligence questioned. I wrote onto Law Review and someone was like, oh, hey, it's really nice that you got onto Law Review because of that diversity requirement. Like, it doesn't matter what you do because white people, whether they mean it or not, are oftentimes going to look at you and judge you on your appearance. So what do? You try to make it better. You don't pull the ladder up behind you, which is what Thomas has done.
Yeah, I mean, and we saw it even play out in the confirmation hearings and the differences between Justice Barrett and Justice Jackson, too. Like, just as stark as night and day. But I gotta say, this is a Chief Justice John Roberts opinion. So this man owns it. he starts it off with some of the just laziest writing, the laziest just shit I've seen, right? Like this wording, because the University of North Carolina is a public institution, and as a public institution, beholden to the Constitution. Harvard's not as a private university, but obviously it's basically the same rules applying here to Harvard because we have the Civil Rights Act. But Roberts is just like, meh, 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 moving on.
It's like all of it violates the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. It's all bad.
All bad. And, just stop it, John.
Just really. Like, I don't, do people not blue book? Does he not have clerks that are like checking the language here? Come on. This wouldn't pass muster.
Were they legacy admissions?
Mm-hmm. And
yeah,
I'm going to break it to you, listeners, viewers. It actually doesn't violate the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment.
It doesn't.
It doesn't. You know why? Because the 14th Amendment is not colorblind. It was not intended to be colorblind.
No.
Like, it's just not. It's a black ass amendment. It's a pro-black amendment, right? It was the architects of that amendment intended it to bring about some level of equality and parity between black and white people. Because why? Because of the goddamn Civil War. It's a Reconstruction amendment.
I was just going to say, it's part of the Reconstruction amendments that included the 13th Amendment, which banned slavery. Like, you would think when you put them together, that might create some context, right? Nope. Which is basically what the dissenters in this case were doing, right? Sotomayor notes that Congress really chose its words carefully when crafting the 14th Amendment here, opting instead for really expansive language that focused on equal protection and rejecting proposals that would have made the Constitution explicitly colorblind because they were around when Congress was debating and writing and passing the 14th Amendment. She also, and I love the justices for doing this, and she and Justice Jackson in particular are so phenomenal at giving these kinds of history lessons. Mm-hmm. And she gave another one, right? This little history lesson that she had in her dissent on the Freedmen's Bureau Act, which was established in 1865, expanded in 1866, and essentially affirmative action for newly freed enslaved people. Like, there's actually the textual legacy too.
Yeah. And I mean, again, Reconstruction amendments that essentially were intended to give life to the voice of the Constitution, right? This voice, this freedom that had been voiced in the Constitution, this equality. The amendments were intended to give that life. Why? Because of slavery, because of the Civil War. So it's absolutely ridiculous to try and claim, as Justice Roberts did, right? To try and claim that what Jackson was saying about how, for example, Justice Harlan, who wrote this very famous dissent in Plessy versus Ferguson, in which he said the Constitution is colorblind, Justice Roberts is like, oh, Justice Jackson said that like Justice Harlan wouldn't like my opinion. Well, you know what? Here's a quote from Justice Harlan. He said in Plessy that our Constitution is colorblind. Yeah, dude. I mean, yeah. If you strip it of all context, then fine. But the point was he was dissenting from a case that established separate but equal. Mm-hmm. And the Supreme Court has, Brown versus Board of Education, in which they essentially were like, Plessy, we're not having separate versus equal, separate but equal anymore.
Right.
And the whole point of a lot of these post Brown versus Board of Education decisions were to let the people know that it wasn't just about color blindness. It was about equality. It was about racial equality. So when Justice Harlan was saying the Constitution is colorblind, he was coming off like 300 years of slavery, right? Like, he wasn't coming off some interview with Tucker Carlson where they were talking about whether or not the Constitution is fucking woke. Like, it's so ridiculous. And so the fact that Roberts tried to just shove that in Jackson's face was just so annoying. It's just so annoying. And Sotomayor was really good at pointing out how, John Roberts and the majority essentially just rewrote history, rewrote the history of desegregation, right? Rewrote the history of how it is that, higher education came to have affirmative action. It stemmed from inequality. It stemmed from school desegregation. It stemmed from white people and these freedom of choice plans, right? Where they're like, oh yeah, we're letting black kids in and white kids in. Meanwhile, it wasn't actually achieving equality. I'm going to stop.
No. Please
Gonna
don't
be mad.
stop. And I mean, as we talked about when we previewed this case at the beginning of the season, this effort to rewrite history, particularly to rewrite Reconstruction and Jim Crow and the civil rights movement, generally is happening at the same time that this quote unquote anti-wokeness conversation is going on in conservative circles, that there's efforts at wide scale book banning and efforts to like really rework curricula to whitewash everything. And John Roberts and the conservative majority just played along right with it. They are co-conspirators in the movement to whitewash history. And let's be honest, this is just John Roberts showing his true colors.
Absolutely.
Right? Just John Roberts showing us who Johnny really is, right? Because today's decisions are going to do far more harm than the good he ostensibly did in Milligan and Moore versus Harper. Like, thank you for not completely upending democracy. That was honestly very good. But what the fuck?
Right, exactly. And it's like, well, I mean, that first footnote, someone in our chat just mentioned it. That first footnote.
John Roberts, go eat rocks. Like, if what you are doing is taking the opportunity as Chief Justice of the Supreme Court to use your first footnote, and we've talked about on this podcast the importance of footnotes in terms of like flexing a lawyer's ego as well. If you are using your first footnote to take like direct aim at your colleague who
is right,
in so many ways, like, take a moment and think about some of the choices you are making, right? Like, I apologize for giving you the credit of the doubt or benefit of the doubt and thinking that, like, I don't know, maybe you were microdosing mushrooms and like getting some weakness. No, none of that's happening.
None of that is happening. Basically, he and Thomas are just protesting too much, right?
Oh,
like,
Jesus, yes.
Just as Roberts dropped that footnote, it just seems like Thomas essentially his entire concurrence was just jab after jab after jab at Justice Jackson, not in a way that really made any sense, right?
No.
It seemed like they were debating Justice Jackson on history and the 14th Amendment more than they were making actual arguments, cogent arguments based in law, fact, common sense.
Right.
It seemed like they were writing a slam book almost.
It completely was. I mean, it's probably because she does originalism better than they do.
Exactly. Right. Like Thomas spends his entire concurrence quibbling with Justice Jackson about racism, about structural racism, about how it is Justice Jackson wants to perpetuate some sort of Black victimhood mindset, which is absurd. You know, he's pretending to do originalism when it's just he is not doing originalism because, as we've said, the 14th Amendment is a pro-Black amendment. It wasn't intended to benefit white people, which is now how it's being read for some reason. And I love how Jackson just sort of hand waved him, right? Just eviscerated Thomas. Here's what she said. Thomas does not dispute any historical or present fact about the origins and continued existence of race-based disparity, nor could he, yet is somehow persuaded that these realities have no bearing on a fair assessment of individual achievement. She also said that he was attacking a dissent that she didn't even write. And then later she said that he was igniting too many more straw men to list or fully extinguish here. Like, yowzers, right? Like, I mean, she put him in his place in the nicest possible way, but did it more so by just being right and explaining history and the law and what they should have done, but failed to.
And then there's this from Roberts. Eliminating racial discrimination means eliminating all of it. Can I give a yanking motion? Like, am I going to get like, that's totally
the
like.
FCC's not going to fine us.
What? I mean, eliminating racial discrimination means eliminating all of it. John, are you serious? This is such bad faith bullshit from him. And as you've said, it returned to this colorblind approach to the Constitution that we saw, emerge in Shelby County. And I think somebody published a piece in The Atlantic that, this colorblind Constitution is going to become the new separate but equal. And it's absolutely, I think, in terms of framing the way that it is. And like, look, the reality is these titans of originalism, these men with big thoughts and ideas, they ignore it when it's convenient.
Yeah.
Right? It's bad faith. It's just such bad faith. Okay. This though, I've been mad about this like all day. Here, listen to this, folks. Quote, nothing in this opinion should be construed as prohibiting universities from considering an applicant's discussion of how race affected his or her life, be it through discrimination, inspiration, or otherwise. Okay, I got to collect myself for a moment after that inspiration.
Such a punk sellout move.
Such a punk sellout move, because like, can applicants talk about how race has impacted their lives? Yeah, sure, kids, knock yourselves out, right? Go for it. But just don't think that there's any societal obligation to do jack shit about it, right?
Yeah.
Like, and this is just a straight cover your ass from Roberts on claims that he and the conservatives are overturning precedent on affirmative action because they can.
Yeah, and he knows what he's done, right? And you know how I know? He knows that he's just denied Black people access to levers of power, right? Access to becoming senator and president and CEO of a corporation. How do I know that he knows? Because he exempted the U.S. military, right? He exempted military academies from this ban on race-conscious admissions.
Yep.
Right? Why? Because you can't have an all-white military, particularly not now when we're in this like sort of tug of war with white nationalism in this country. It's not going to look great if the military is all white. So we can't have that. So it obviously diversity matters. Obviously, these race-based admissions policies matter societally, matter to democracy. Of course, it's the same thing if you're applying it to universities and colleges. It cannot be that affirmative action is good for military academies, but bad for Harvard and UNC. That doesn't even make any sense.
Right.
And the United States submitted an amicus brief, and here's what they said in the amicus brief. The government has a vital interest in drawing its personnel, many of whom will eventually become its civilian and military leaders, from a well-qualified and diverse pool of university and service academy graduates. That applies to colleges and universities.
I mean, how could it not? How could it not? All right. So I guess apparently the only way Black and brown folks achieve pipelines to leadership is via the war machine. That's great.
Yeah.
That's super. That's super. It says a lot about what white conservatives in the majority see as sort of acceptable places for people of color to be, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And Jackson, again, doesn't let them off the hook. She says, the quote, the court has come to the conclusion that racial diversity in higher education is only worth potentially preserving insofar as it might be needed to prepare Black Americans for success in the bunker, not the boardroom.
Damn.
I mean, mic drop. And that was just one of many mic drops she had. But, we could turn this into an hour-long, Jackson fan show. Let's talk about some of these other jamokes.
Okay. I am going to issue the Brett Kavanaugh just shut up challenge.
Yes. I mean, so what does that challenge involve?
Why issue a concurrence that says nothing but, yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Totally agree. Yep.
He's a yeah, shit, yeah guy. I had a friend who used to call people who had nothing to say, like they brought nothing to the table, no discourse whatsoever, a yeah, shit, yeah guy. He's just on a stage at a hip hop concert with a mic in his hand, being like, yeah, shit, yeah. You know what I mean? He's like Migos on a Cardi B track, being like, like it's just, he doesn't bring anything to the table, and I'm very proud of myself for having a Gen Z reference to connect with the youths, right? Because it's ridiculous. My original comparison was he's P. Diddy in a Biggie video, just like with the fish lens being like, yeah, like bringing nothing to the goddamn table.
Oh my God. Literally, he's brought nothing to the table the entirety of his time on the bench so far, and basically just wanted to chime in and say, well, we can't have affirmative action for like ever, guys.
Right.
Like ever. That's not going to happen.
You need a deadline. Like he's so obsessed with this deadline. He literally thinks that in Grutter, the 2003 case where the court said, race-based admissions is fine if there are no race-neutral alternatives. Yep. And Sandra Day O'Connor was like, yeah, we think probably in 25 years there may be some race-neutral alternatives, so we should take another look. According to Brett Kavanaugh, Sandra Day O'Connor gave a 25-year deadline. By 2028, racism will be dead. White people, put it in your calendars. Get some canned margaritas. It's going to be a fucking celebration.
The bad faith bullshit.
So bad. And it's just
from the man who couldn't find his calendar during his confirmation hearing.
Yeah. And then Gorsuch chimes in to be like, well, Title VI of the Civil Rights Act says blah, blah, blah. Nobody asked you, Neil. Like, of course you have to read Title VI alongside the Equal Protection Clause. You have to read the 40 years of precedent in which the court has said time and again that race-based admissions doesn't violate the Equal Protection Clause, doesn't violate Title VI. But here comes Neil Gorsuch. Hey, guys, have you heard about Title VI?
Basically.
I don't know.
Basically, and like Imani said, like truly nobody asked for textualism today. Neil, like read the room. Read the room. I have to say, one of the things that is really upsetting, I mean, everything's upsetting about this, but I think that's kind of getting missed in the conversation so far is that this is really the beginning of a wholesale rewriting of the 14th Amendment. I mean, if you just create out of whole cloth a new history, a new legal understanding around how the 14th Amendment is supposed to operate in one context, in this context, it's race-based admission policies, then what is stopping the court from rewriting out of whole cloth how the 14th Amendment is supposed to work in other contexts, right? This opens the door to ending birthright citizenship, for example, something that we know conservatives are really keen to do, and a conservative supermajority in 2024 would make a priority. It also paves the way for rewriting the 14th Amendment to establish fetal personhood. Like, that's what happens when you start saying up is down, and but Roberts and the majority decide that the 14th Amendment is supposed to address systemic racism in this case because they can. They didn't like the policy.
Nope.
And so they changed the Constitution to reflect a policy outcome that they preferred.
Yeah, that's exactly what they did. And I just want to congratulate white women, all of the white women, the Abigail Fishers and the other white, the white liberals. Elie Mystal had a really great quote, and I should have written it down, but basically talking about, like, you'll never see a white liberal drop their mask sooner than when their kid doesn't get into the elite school that they want to, right?
Oh, that's real.
This goes out to all of y'all. Real. Congratulations, you shot yourself in the foot. Because you know who benefited the most from affirmative action? White women.
We did.
White women.
We did. And when white women try to hurt Black folks and people of color, we hurt ourselves too. And hopefully one day we'll all figure that out. All right.
maybe we won't. But we can be thankful for one thing.
Thank God Sam Alito had nothing to say about this case.
I mean, Jesus Christ.
Can you
imagine? I wouldn't have been able to handle it. Not that rambling ass Thomas opinion, and then Alito with his sneering nonsense. Oh God, I couldn't. I wouldn't have been able to do it. But I'm just gonna circle back. I'm just gonna circle back to Justice Jackson, right? Because Justice Jackson had this banger of a quote that has basically gone viral on social media. And it's kind of funny that like a quote from a Supreme Court opinion can go viral now. The times we live in. She said, with let them eat cake obliviousness, today the majority pulls the ripcord and announces colorblindness for all by legal fiat. But deeming race irrelevant in law does not make it so in life. I mean, it doesn't get any clearer than that, right? Like,
it really doesn't.
And Sotomayor made absolute fools of the conservative justices with their dissents. Like, their dissents were clear, concise. Sonia Sotomayor does what she always does, which is she relates it to the people. She actually cited her own opinion in Utah v. Strife, talking about how, of course, race matters in society, because it's not white parents that have to sit their children down and talk about, here's how you survive an interaction with the goddamn police.
Right.
It is absurd to insist that we are colorblind and that race doesn't matter. So I just really loved that about those two. So
I just wish they didn't have to do all that work.
Yeah.
But if someone's going to do the work, I'm glad it's Justice Jackson, because hot fucking damn.
She's so smart. She's so good. Her writing is so clear and concise. And that's going to form the basis of the majority opinion that overturns this bullshit.
Yeah.
Whether in 20, 30, 40 years.
Yeah. As Imani and I have been saying for a long, long time on this podcast, this is generational repair that we are undergoing. And so it's not one election fix. It's not like, one little bit of policy fix. This is, this is for the long haul. Like this fucking term, man.
I was about to say, like, this is our final episode of the season, and we still don't have 303 creatives. right? We
Right.
still that's the case of the lady who wants to make wedding websites, but she doesn't make wedding websites, right? She doesn't want to serve gay people because icky. And then we're still waiting for student debt relief. What the hell, man?
What the hell, man? Like, truly, what do you guys have to do?
Judge
Like,
Judy gif.
I mean, seriously, we don't have to live like this is the one thing we're going to say. And in terms of 303 creatives and student debt relief, they should kick both those cases on standing. They should have done that today so we could all be wrapped up and go home and be drinking canned margaritas all across the board, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Especially because if folks missed it, and it would have been easy to today with the affirmative action cases, there was some pretty bombshell reporting on the 303 creatives case, right? Imani, we have to talk about this.
Yeah, we really do. We really do. First of all, shout out to Melissa Guerra Grant, because apparently no one had ever thought to just call this gay couple who apparently asked for this website. Like,
journalism, you're doing great, sweetie.
like, are you fucking kidding me? Right? Like, the whole basis of the case is that this lady, Lori Smith, is a graphic design artist, and that her designs are her art, and she has a First Amendment right not to have to serve, people she doesn't like, in this case, gay people. And, she doesn't make wedding websites, but she really just wants the court to tell her that she doesn't have to make websites when she decides to make websites for gay couples. And why does she have standing? Because Stuart and Mike.
Okay, so let's talk about Stuart and Mike.
Please.
Melissa Guerra Grant published a piece in the New Republic that shows that the gay couple at the center of the case about this make-believe wedding website designer, right? Because this broad didn't even make wedding websites at the time, right? This is all make-believe. Who doesn't want to design, and she didn't make them, but she said if she did, she really wasn't going to make them for gay couples. Okay,
right.
The gay couple at the heart of this dispute, they don't exist.
They don't exist.
They don't exist.
They don't fucking
What are we doing here?
The guy, Stuart, quote unquote Stuart, he's already married. It was like Melissa
to a woman.
Like, Melissa Guerra Grant called this man up, and this man was like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about, man.
Like, seems bad. Seems
real bad.
Seriously, this is true. Please go look it up. The Stewart, who the Alliance Defending Freedom claimed reached out to their client for the design of a website to his partner, quote unquote, Mike.
Hey, Mike. What's up, Mike?
Stewart's a real person.
Yeah. Who is
Stewart exists? Right. But married to a woman, and apparently also reached out to the website designer the day after the Alliance Defending Freedom filed its initial lawsuit challenging the Colorado law at issue in this case. Okay, this is hysterical and terrifying
and scandalous. This is scandalous. This is fraud on the court.
It's fraud on the court. People should lose their license for this stuff because what is happening is the Roberts Court is creating fictitious precedent. This is just narrative. None of these cases are real. They don't involve real life.
Is this
just fantasy?
I mean, it's complete. It's absolutely bananas. It's absolutely bananas. And the fact that we didn't get the 303 creative case today is Thursday, June 20. I almost said January. June 29th. June 30th, tomorrow's ostensibly the last day of the term.
It is. Robert said it was going to be.
Oh, okay. So
he's got plans.
He's got plans. So tomorrow we're getting 303 creative. It does not bode well that they held it for the last day of the term, because normally if they were just going to kick it on standing, they would have done it like end of May, early June.
That's an easy.
This is really bad.
It's really bad, and I mean, the tea leaves right now are that Gorsuch has the opinion. We'll see, right? And if that is the case, I don't even really know.
I don't know, because he did Bostock, but this is a constitutional issue, right? It's a First Amendment issue, so there's no statutory language he can parse with his textualist little fingers. So, and we also know, like, what happens when Neil Gorsuch gets a case that's based on lies? He propagates those lies. Do you remember Kennedy versus Bremerton?
Let Coach pray. Let Coach pray.
Let the coach pray. I mean, Jesus, this was just a poor
folks may not remember that case. Do a quick.
He was just a real faith-abiding, Jesus-loving, good Christian coach.
Yeah.
And he just wanted to have very small little prayers, just small events, just a couple of friends, couple of close friends, do a little prayer, say a little prayer for you. No big deal. Turns out in actuality, they were in the middle of the football field with like both teams with helmets up praying on the field. This is a public school. It's a clear violation of the First Amendment. Gorsuch wrote a whole opinion based on some shit that never happened.
Right.
There was never any closed room, quiet, proceedings where they all prayed. It was wide open. It was people on the football team who maybe didn't feel comfortable with it, but couldn't say anything because they were all on the field. So it's, again, fake law. Fake cases
law.
make fake law.
Fake ass law is what this court is dropping these days.
Fake ass law.
Oh my God. Imani.
I can't.
What a year.
Yeah, it's been a year.
We had our first live show though.
Yeah, we went live this year. I feel like we've been doing it for way longer, but it's only been a year.
But like live and in person. Like,
oh yeah, that's right. We did do that.
Like live and in person. We
won an award. We won an award. For our The Day Roe Died podcast. It's been a, and also the Supreme Court term hasn't, despite this affirmative action just nonsense, the term hasn't been as bad as it could be.
This is true.
ICWA survived, and that is freaking huge.
It really
Democracy survived, right?
Mostly,
more or less, because the court was like, Morvey Harper, seriously, with the more and the Harper, can we not right now?
Can we not right now?
Can we just can't? So yeah.
We moved the show to video. Like when we would do the show as audio only, I would always have the opportunity to see Imani's lovely face, but that was never broadcast to y'all. And this is a fantastic development, right? And I don't know about you, but I would love to hear from the Boom Lawyered fam about what some of your favorite moments from the season were, right? Like there are things I kind of have I have a problem with object permanence with the show where like we put it out and I'm like, out of sight, out of mind.
I forgot we did a live show that was just like 3 months ago. So my brain is broken.
But hit us up on Twitter or Facebook or the Facebook group while we are taking our season break and let us know really, truly what you liked the most, right? Mm-hmm. We would love to hear from you. Nothing is better than having the ability to chat with the Boom Lawyered family. The law nerds are everything.
Yes.
And look, I know things feel really dire right now, and it's hard because real damage has been done by this court. They're taking away our rights. They're dismantling the rule of law because they can.
Yeah, it's a last chance power grab.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to cement conservative rule for generations. Democracy be damned.
Democracy be damned.
And you know that we here at Boom Lawyered, we do our best to keep you informed in this ever-changing and yes, terrifying landscape. But we also know that laughter and giving ourselves room to breathe and room to have fun and room to drink snow melts on a Thursday afternoon, it's important in times like these.
Yeah, joy is an important part of our existence and resistance right now. And monthly donations, no matter the amount, have the most lasting and long-term impact here. This allows us to continue publishing essential and expert journalism and analysis like you find right here on the podcast. I mean, who else is going to call a federal district judge a classy bitch?
No, who else is going to call Justice Thomas a bitch-ass?
No one.
No one, literally. So if you sign up to donate $10 a month, you'll get exclusive access to the Boom Lawyered blooper reel, which is hilarious. Jess and I are not afraid to make fools of ourselves in public. It's the end of our first ever season, and we've had a lot of fun this year bringing this new medium to you. We love it, and we think that you'll enjoy seeing some of the scenes from behind the scenes because it's a hot mess. But we're your favorite law nerds, and you're our favorite law nerds. So it's like a symbiotic relationship.
It is. I'm getting emotional. Like, I'm going to miss doing this for a little while. We're coming back. Don't worry about that. We're coming back, and we'll be coming in hot, too. Don't you even worry about it.
Coming in hot with season 9.
Tell us what you want to hear about, what questions you have. What do you want to see from the next season? Hit us up.
Hit us up. Yeah. You can find me on Twitter at Angry Black Lady. You can find Jess on Twitter at Hegemommy, HEGEMOMMY. We're both on Blue Sky. You can hit us up there and sign up for the YouTube channel. So next year when we go live, you'll be the first to know, or one of the first to know.
Yeah.
And aside from that, what are we going to do, Jess?
We're going to see you on the tubes, folks.
We're going to see you on the tubes, folks.